This week's episode of Podular Modcast is brought to you by the lovely people over at Patchworks. Patchworks is the spot to go in Seattle as far as I'm concerned. Beautiful showroom, so much fun equipment set up and ready for you to experiment with. Not just modular, they've got studio equipment, they've got desktop synths, they've got drum machines, they've got some pedals, all the cabling you would need beyond just patch cables, and just... Did I mention how lovely of a staff they have? Just the greatest people, super knowledgeable, super helpful, and just a really, really wide selection of gear. So again, that's patchworks.com, patchwerks.com. And if you're in the Seattle area, I would definitely swing by because it is a wonderful, wonderful showroom. It's like I feel like a kid in a candy shop when I go in there. And then while you're there, you could check out some of After Later Audio's new stuff. So yeah, I want to thank After Later Audio for their continued support of Podular Modcast. They recently released 7 new modules, 3 in the new Mutable Instruments Classic line. One of those is a Razor, which is a 1-to-1 blades. Then we have a 1-to-1 warps called Fuse, and then one that we call monocle, which is half of a blinds. And then you can actually daisy chain multiple monocles together, so you could have just this whole huge row of monocles if you would like to do that. Also, there is Quarks, which is a micro elements, and it's a little bigger than the Atom, which is also a micro element, so there's more room for your fingers to dial the knobs in and stuff. I prefer it over the Atom, but they're both pretty great. And then there is the 1U sample and hold, track and hold, tiny little module, but don't let its size fool you. It is a powerhouse. And then lastly, there is the 1U Allen, which is a Turing machine. So now there is a Turing machine in the 1U format. Did I mention U-grids? Oh, also a U-grids, which is just a micro grids. Great for beat sequencing, creating really interesting drum beats. So once again, that's afterlateraudio.com for more information there. And yeah, let's get going on the show. Hello and welcome back to Podular Modcast. My name is Tim Held, and this week we have Dan Green from 4MS returning to the show. And it's a great chat, and I can't wait to share it with you. Now that we're doing video of the episodes, there will be extended versions of these episodes that are only accessible to Patreon subscribers. And I'm just going to be asking the guests some bonus questions, and I'm even open to taking some questions from you, the patrons, to put into the list of questions that I'll be asking the guest for the bonus material. That material will be available on the Patreon. I'm also working on some other bonus material. I really want to do this album club thing where we meet once a month on Zoom, and maybe we'll have listeners or Patreon subscribers submit tracks or their albums for us to listen to, and then we can all get together and talk about them. And then I'll record those, and then I'll release those as bonus episodes for the patrons as well. So again, if you'd like to help out to keep the LEDs blinking over here at PodMod, head over to patreon.com/Podular Modcast. I want to show you some modules that I've been talking about lately on the show. So the first up is the Exchanger from BoardBrain. And what we have here is we have 6 different ins and outs. So we can do 3 different stereo channels or 6 individual channels. The top 2 sections here are for getting your Euro levels out into your line level gear, like pedals, or even getting into an interface or a mixer. So that's really, really useful. They have a -12 or a -18 dB switch, which is really, really useful. And then the bottom 2 are the reverse. So what these will do, will take your external signals and bump them to Euro levels. And what we have is a +18 or plus 12 dB switch. So it's really great for getting your synths, your desktop synths, or your guitar, or a microphone, or just anything that you want to inject into your modular system. And then next, I've been talking a lot about this one, very excited, is the EQ5. So we have a 5-band EQ here with your high at your 10 kilohertz, your high mid at 4 kilohertz, mid at 1 kilohertz, low mid at 400, and then the low 100. CV control over all of those, which is pretty useful. There's a balance because it is a stereo module, and you can CV that panner there for the balance, and then there is a level. So there's a right and left in, right and left out, and then there's a combination output of the left and right. So this is just very, very useful. Put it at the end of your chain if you're doing stereo recordings or stereo live performance, and this will just really help you dial into those sweet spots. I've also been talking about Weston Precision Audio, and this is the SF1 dual or stereo filter. So look at that bad boy. This thing's super useful. We'll get into some demos with this, but yeah, all sorts of different shapes for your slopes, and of course you have your high pass, band pass, and low pass, and then each output side actually has a second dedicated output that you can get some notch filtering and even some phasing with. And then what's really unique is you have this panner here. So if you are using it as a dual filter, you can CV this panner between the right and left filters. So you could have, band pass and a notch on one side, and then a low pass, and then the phaser on the other. So you're actually getting 4 different outputs on that. So pretty sweet. You have individual control over cutoff and 1 volt per octave ends, so you can get this thing self-oscillating and use that as an oscillator. There's CV control for the resonance as well, and then you can link these 2 filters to where if you're controlling the 1 volt per octave, the resonance, and the cutoff of this side, you're actually also controlling this side, which is pretty useful because you can have them set to different filter types. So that's really fun and really sturdy. I really like the look of these things. Nice aluminum panels and nice matte black, yellow and black and gray knobs. It has this kind of like 80s, early 90s retro look to it. And then part of the recent After Later Audio releases, the Razor, which is a 1-to-1 blades, mutable instruments blades. So this thing is also a very, very cool filter. And I just really like the look of our Mutable Instrument Classics line. I think they're pretty fancy looking. And then finally, this thing I'm very, very excited about. This is not a module, but it is semi-modular. This is the Mystic from Recovery Effects, and it has CV ends on it, so you can control your modulation and your modulation rate, and it even has a built-in delay effect on it. So actually, using this with Exchanger would be a perfect way of getting this sound into your modular. Even though there is a volume knob on it, you could really boost those levels if you needed to get it into your modular realm. What else? Yeah, there's two oscillators here that they cross modulate each other and just all sorts of wacky stuff. This switch here is either for having it droning, or you can switch it down to turn it off, and then this push button will actually get it going. Dan Green, welcome back to the show. It's been a while. I usually like to look up when someone was here last, but I don't remember when you were here last, but I think it was a while ago.
It was. Yeah, I actually went back to be like, yeah, how long ago was it? I know it was pre-pandemic, and I think like 2019 maybe, or
Okay,
18.
yeah, that sounds
Yeah,
right. Let's see. I can do a quick search. Not, the audience is like, who cares? But now I
yeah.
want to know. You were on October 7th, 2019.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and we've talked a few times since then. Got to see you
Yeah.
recently, which was really cool. At Waveform PDX. Got to
Yeah, that was
see
cool.
some of your new modules that you've been working on. But before we jump straight into the nerd talk, how you been? What's new?
Good. Good. Yeah, a lot's happened since 2019, but yeah, we're doing well here. Yeah, let's see. Okay, 20. Wait a minute. Okay, yeah, 2019. Yeah, so I had a kid. My kid had just turned 1 years old when you
Mm-hmm.
last
Mm-hmm.
talked to me last. Okay, yeah. So yeah. Now I have a 4 year old, and and yeah, who loves building things and creating things. It's pretty awesome.
Imagine that.
Um, yeah, I wonder where he got that. It must be genetic because it was like engineers going back in my family history.
Oh.
Um, so yeah, and yeah, making synthesizers. We're like staying in business like miraculously through everything and making new stuff. So it's pretty, uh, yeah, we have a pretty good crew that really like hunkered down and like helped each other out during the help our whole company keep going during the lockdowns and everything. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Like, I mean, I can kind of imagine because I work with After Later Audio, but it's not my company. But just how stressful that whole thing, and then we don't have to get too deep into the weeds on the part shortage and
Yeah,
recession and
yeah, yeah,
everything,
yeah.
but that's just like not good news for
I
small
know.
boutique companies in niche markets.
Yeah, I know. It's like all new sets of challenges. Like I feel like we had like a fine tuned machine where like we'd like buy enough parts for like 6 weeks and like it was like running real smooth like a few years ago, and then all of a sudden it's like okay, new rules, everything
Yeah,
all new rules. Yeah, figure it out.
yeah.
But
Well, and it's just
we
like,
gotten in another it's
yeah,
going again. Yeah, we got another what they like our groove. I was gonna say we're in a
good.
rut, but that sounds like you're in a groove for too long. So we just got there. So not a rut yet.
Well,
So
that's really good news to hear, because like I've been really concerned about uh over the last, I'm going on 5 years of doing this, and over the last 5 years,
yeah.
I've met and become friends with so many people in your situation making these things, and a lot of them are one, two people companies. They're doing all of the stuff, and I just feel for these people, and it feels like the universe is playing this potentially very cruel joke, in that modular is like getting more and more popular and breaking through to more and more to a wider audience, and at the same time it's like maybe the hardest it's ever been for smaller
Yeah.
companies to
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm worried about some of my friends, and yeah, but I'm glad to hear that things are going well for y'all. So I'm curious too, like with that, I know it's different from maker to maker, but like with everything that's happening with like shortages and everything, and like looking into the future, are like, I know like you use chips on analog stuff, but like, is the future of modular going to be a lot more analog than it has been digital lately, going
Um,
forward?
I've seen that like anecdotal trend. I would say just of like a few. Yeah, we see like a whole bunch of analog releases lately because of that. And just in general, yeah, it's just easier to get more analog chips and or build or make workarounds for them. So
Mm-hmm.
but it's like I can't see it really. Uh, I can't see that really like lasting. I think that's just like a stopgap of like companies were like we have to release something. Well, we have these analog things in the pipeline, so they get pushed to the front.
Right, right.
Just because like I mean I feel like okay, so I think the maker movement, like the whole like I don't know if it's even called a thing anymore, but like maybe 2010 or something. Like this was like a thing. This was happening. This was like a movement kind of, and like Arduino was part of that, and probably even like Lego Mindstorms, and going back even farther, and like so, and that all that stuff really like helped modular take off. Not
Mm-hmm.
directly, but it it brought like we've had the same analog chips and stuff since like Surge, and like there's not that much new in terms
Mm-hmm.
of like supplies, or things aren't that much cheaper, but like all of a sudden it takes off. And I think like um, a lot of that was like just the potential of like the accessibility of like digital, like DSP, like low cost DSP
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and it just like, even if, it's like not, I don't think very many people are like 100% analog. Like I only have 100% analog. Like that's super hardcore to be,
Mm-hmm.
and some people are, and that's fine, but I think that's a niche within a niche. And
Mm-hmm.
like I think it's like yeah the this is what really made like Eurorack like explode was like you have these like super cool modules, mutable instruments, like that was
Mm-hmm.
like boom, like these are amazing sounds, this is not a Surge, you know because
Mm-hmm.
it does
Totally.
this like
Yeah,
whole new
yeah.
thing. We're not just like
Mm-hmm.
reliving the past, and we're not just like remaking the past. Like this is like a brand new thing. And a lot of that,
Right.
yeah, I think goes back to like the low cost DSP and low cost like digital, modules that weren't available back in the 70s, and now we can make new sounds, we can do new stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that going away. So,
Yeah,
but I could be wrong. I don't
yeah.
know.
I certainly hope it doesn't go away, because like it can just you can get so much more because real estate is always such a huge issue with modular. You know, you
Hmm.
have a lot of people who maybe only have, you know, a 4U 84 HP rack, you know, so like if it was all module or all analog modules, then you've got like 4 modules in there if you want like some real powerhouses, you know. Um,
Right.
so
And even
I
like
hope that
clocks.
doesn't.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, even like I'm including like Pamela's workout as like part of the digital. That stuff
Oh
wasn't
yeah.
available back, you know. So it doesn't even have to be DSP. But yeah, I think almost any system you look at like's got some like at least bread and butter of like something that's you might not even realize or think of it as like a digital module,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
there. Yeah, yeah,
I've been just really like actually Alex Anderson from WMD. Him and I were talking, and you know he's saying we are using these same like DSP and analog digital conversion like chips, like the same ones we use in modules, are being used in cars. And as cars get more electric, the auto industry and the laptop and phone industry, like we're using these same parts, and these are $1 billion a year, billions of dollar a year industries. And then you have the audio who's like, okay, well, I hope there's some left over for me. But if Apple wants to go in and say,
yeah,
hey, I want to buy the next 2 years of everything you make, then
yeah,
yeah, I'm just like picturing this world of all these makers like going out to vintage shops and tearing apart old electronics to salvage parts to try to like
yeah.
like this scarcity breeding
Something.
some sort of innovation. And holy shit, I didn't know you could do this with digital or with analog or something. But you're
Uh huh.
making me feel better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, they are starting starting to trickle back in. The
Okay.
shortage seems to be so. It is. We kind of it seems like turned a corner,
Yeah.
but people have been saying that for a while, but I didn't notice anything until a few months ago. And it's like, okay, stuff's starting to trickle back in. We're starting to get like dates. Like you'll have your chips by this date. Before it was just like production shortage unknown.
Right.
You're like,
Right.
2 years
Well,
later, production shortage unknown. Okay, so
yeah. So with this like latest round of 4MS releases, like are these like is this, are you like on your release schedule and everything, or how much did like the pandemic and this chipocalypse, like have you had to back burner some stuff that you've been working on for a while that you've been really excited about, or
um, I feel like I was like, what's a production schedule? I don't everything's so like organic and how we bring stuff out. It's like okay, yeah, not really. Honestly, like I think um, we had these everything in the pipeline that's in the pipeline, and it's definitely slowed stuff down,
Mhm,
but we're always and it actually okay, and it's definitely shaped like okay, so like for the mini peg was released. I actually
mhm.
designed that for a different chip at the start of the pandemic,
Okay.
before pre-shortage, and I had it, like it's all working this other chip and everything, and then I waited to order that chip until I like was going to work out all the bugs in the firmware, and then you can't get the chip. So then I had to find some other chip that I could maybe get in 6 months, and then then it comes in, and then I have to redesign. Now we have like multiple firmwares for different chips and all kinds of stuff. So now there's like three
Mhm.
chips that it can run on. Um, so that slowed things down for sure. But it didn't, but it was still like we're gonna make this work. It just like delayed it maybe by a year or so.
Okay.
Um,
Now, when you find these
yeah,
workarounds for different chips, is that something that, like, if something like this happens again with another module, like you can kind of use that workaround as a starting point, or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like, okay,
Sometimes, I mean, yeah. So yeah, sometimes like if I'm able to find a quantity big enough for like two modules or two runs, then yeah, then it is a
okay.
start. Like so, we're redoing the DLD. We just
Oh,
that chip's ever. So I mean, no one's going to notice. It's the same DLD. It just like happens to have a different chip in the back that we were
oh,
able to
okay,
get.
okay,
So and yeah, same firmware. It's not going to be any. Um, you'll have to know which chip you have when you update the firmware, but we're not releasing that many updates for the DLD anymore, so I don't think it'll be a big
okay.
deal. But anyways,
Yeah.
that one, we've been out of the wave recorder for like a year, And then, so finally those chips came in and I realized I can use it with the wave recorder if I also use an external RAM chip. So now we're
Okay.
making wave recorders right now again, finally. So,
Okay.
yeah, and it helped. Yeah. Just able to find this one chip and I'm like, okay, what can I use this with? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, like, I've seen some modules, and I'm thinking of like the back of the STS, which I know is like a super powerful digital machine. Um, but like, I'm thinking like, do you like, do you ever or maybe going into the future, do you maybe leave yourself a little bit more real estate on a PCB in case you do need to make workarounds, or do you
Oh,
have
yeah.
like, like, because some of these things are just like
Yeah.
packed,
Yeah.
because you,
Well,
you probably don't want to change the size, especially, I mean, unless you can go a little smaller, but that's not what that problem's not what we're talking about here.
yeah, it's usually crammed as much as yeah. Actually, I mean, so like it's always been, we haven't had to change the layout of anything. That's always been the goal is like,
Hmm.
we're not. So all our redos are, um, we want the same front panel. We don't want a user to be like, why is this one different? Maybe this one's better or something.
Right,
So
right.
that's just going to be, so yeah, but like really what it's done is like in terms of like writing code and like, it's really made me up my game in terms of the firmware because like you don't, you want to rewrite as little as possible.
Right.
And that's exposed a lot of places where I'm like, I don't, this is like, if you're listening and you're a coder, you probably understand like encapsulation and like, you want to keep things separate so you can just be like, okay, now we use this chip, but all your like business logic of like, this is a sampler, we play samples and these are what the buttons do. All that's separate, you know?
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's like a style of coding that they say is like really good practice. And, sometimes you're in a hurry and you get lazy and then, well, 3 years later, you actually do have to rewrite it and you're like, crap, it's coming back to bite me, I shouldn't have been lazy.
Yeah,
So,
right.
so
Well,
it is, I think in the future, yeah, the trauma, the post-traumatic like response is going to be like, no, you never know what's going to change. Like, like write it so we can swap any piece out for another piece and it'll just run. Like,
right.
which is good, which is good coding. It's what
Uh-huh.
they teach, and
Yeah.
yeah,
I could see in like 15 years, like once the people who like don't maybe didn't live through the pandemic, or at least not as adults, and have to deal with these kind of problems, once, like, if the dust truly settles from all of that, and like everybody like you guys who went through it being like the depression era grandparents that you had that
yeah,
like
I
saved everything, and there's like, man, these guys are kooky.
know. We're like, no, yeah, always keep an extra roll of toilet paper under your bed. My grandpa's nuts, man. Yeah,
Oh my god, my mom was during the great toilet paper fiasco.
yeah,
She was, I mean, she was one of those people who was, who bought too much toilet paper, who, it's like you didn't have to do that, but she was trying to buy it for
right.
me and my sisters and stuff, but we were fine. Hannah and I had plenty, and there was a period of probably 2 weeks where twice a week she would like call to ask, like, we got that, I can mail you this toilet paper. And I'm like, we
I can
have
nail
like
you.
3 months worth of toilet paper right now. We have a Costco card. We're good. Yeah, it's pretty funny. So,
Yeah,
I,
taking care. Yeah,
just being a mom, but like a suburban,
it's. I'm totally going to be that old guy that's still, yeah, being like, "Ooh, I found an IC. Ooh, buy it, buy it." I don't know what it does. I mean, yeah,
Um, I had one question about your kid, saying that he's into building stuff and everything. Like, I know 4 is still pretty young, probably to unleash him on a modular system. But have you, like, let him play with anything like the blip blocks, or any like, like
yeah.
child-proof,
Well,
desktops or anything?
no, I haven't. No, not the blit block. Nothing childproof. We we have a Moog sub. What's it? Sub 37,
Uh-huh.
37. Just like on the floor of the living room, like next to the fireplace, and then behind that's a row of a couple pods of modular. There's like Swan Ensemble, and there's like a MIDI CV converter that the Moog's
Oh,
plugged
cool.
into.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
and yeah, so it's fully running. Just leave it on all the time, and it, yeah. So so like we just finished these envelope mod. I'll take them home, and that's where I'll put it. I'll install it there for him to
Uh-huh.
play with. They'll
Oh,
make
nice.
noise,
He's your beta
I
tester?
mean, yeah, yeah, real edge test. Um, and yeah, so
That's
yeah,
cool.
like a lot of it's like patching is definitely probably the hardest concept for like any
For
for even
sure.
adults or whatever. So
Yeah.
like is this an output input? Like that's they're like roads to him. He like makes like roads, building like civil engineer, like making
Oh, nice.
connections for
Nice.
trucks to go through from this one, and this one is the blue one for the buses and stuff and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So and then buttons are always fun to play with and stuff. And
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're just always
That's
on. You
so
want to make
cool.
music, go over and make some music.
That's
So
so cool. I just like that just makes me like what's the word I'm thinking of? It's just like it makes me just like fondly like think about what does that kind of environment as a child, like what does that do, like what kind of adult is that going to create? And I feel like
yeah,
it's
I
just going to
know.
be like such a cool um yeah, yeah, it just seems
Yeah.
I just think about my childhood. Like I watched like RoboCop on VHS too often at way too young of an age, like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we had so little music in my house growing up too. It was
really
like so. Yeah, I mean, like I played violin, but like it was sort of more like a forced. I mean, it was
like a
like you have to take an
structure, like
instrument.
you need to do something. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, you need to. I wasn't like screaming about it, but I didn't really enjoy it that much. And
yeah.
it was more like, oh, you're just supposed to learn this. It makes you well rounded or something. And
Right,
didn't
right.
really care for it much. But then, it wasn't until I was a teenager that I picked up a guitar and was like, whoa, I can play
Yeah,
like music I like and stuff, and
yeah.
started to, yeah. So, and
I
that was
don't.
like, as I was kind of like, yeah, outside my household, my parents were like, that's weird.
Yeah.
Like, like you're
Am I
making weird
remembering right
music,
that
but
you? Am I remembering right that you like? Did you grow up in Philly or somewhere like East Coast?
Chicago, no, it's
Chi-
Midwest. Yeah. So
oh, Midwest.
Chicago,
Okay, okay,
yeah, yeah.
okay. Because I know
And
you
then,
had like you like in college or something. You had that kind of like art like collective house or something. Was that in Chicago or
yeah, yeah, yeah,
okay?
St. Louis. So then, yeah. So
St.
then I
Okay,
moved to
St.
St.
Louis.
Louis
All
when I
right,
left
right,
home.
right. Very cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so when we talked briefly about this when we were hanging out at Waveform. But when I saw like the new 4MS releases, I was like, after Swan and you released a lot of really like weird digital stuff, and then I saw like envelopes VCAs. I was like, wait a minute, this like what's going on here? Like, and I looked closer, and I'm like, oh, these are like not only are like the dual envelope VC or the shaped dual envelope VCA. Like, I want to definitely get into the nitty gritty on like the waveform changing
Oh yeah,
aspect on
totally.
that.
Yeah.
Um, but I also like I feel like it was a well, I'm wondering how much of the plan or philosophy by doing like, okay, so you have like the shaped dual, which is like the mega, and then you have the dual, which is like a little bit smaller, and then just the envelope VCA. So you have like these three different versions,
Hmm.
and then like a mini peg, because the peg is like a beloved um, module, and it's pretty big, and it's been around for a while. So I think bringing the mini is a really cool idea. And then the shuffling clock multiplier plus, where you just kind of put the expander together. I'm thinking like, was it your plan going in thinking like a lot of like modular has a lot of new people coming in, and 4MS is a name that they're going to see, like we want to offer them some of our you know some of our greatest functionality, but like in an updated and more like compact form? Or yeah, what was the thinking behind like
Yeah,
this recent
yeah.
run?
I think that was what you just said. I think captures kind of the mini peg and the SCM plus. Is that yeah? We kind of felt like um, they're awesome. I mean, I think they really do
Totally,
something that
yeah.
you can't. It's hard to do. It's like they're unique and it's really useful. And I think like especially for people new, because like when those came out, we were all kind of new,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
it really fills in a gap. And it's like so easy just to make some cool beats and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I think they're missed because yeah, they're just like old. They're like scroll way, way, way down in the history until you even hear about them. So, and then and people that have been around and people that are new is like there's it's not always like an overlapping community of like there's just so many people now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
exactly. We just wanted to like re-release them, and like the chips we built those on are impossible to get and outdated. So we yeah, we wanted to do them, and we just saw like sales, like they're just like selling less and less and less, and I'm like, but these are still relevant, these are still cool. Well,
Right.
okay, yeah, we need to like update it, refresh it, make it, they're a little more accurate, a little more less jitter, more, the timing's a little tighter, everything's just a little nicer about them, and then yeah, and then
Yeah.
just like, but then the
And I love
envelopes was like,
yeah.
oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna kind of going into the envelopes. I was just gonna say like I love that, like something I've learned recently with working with Lenny at After Later is just like why not throw a VCA on it? Because you can. Like
Yeah,
they don't take
yeah,
up a lot of space, and VCAs are so crucial in a system. I'm seeing that more and more where a lot more modules have built-in VCAs, either that you can use on their own or within the environment. So now you don't have to use this envelope and also get a VCA because again, real estate and everything. So
yeah. Yeah, it's
yeah,
handy, and like we're not the first ones to put an envelope and BCA together,
right.
but it is like I think it's a great combo, and yeah, and like we kind of like our idea with that is that like we just I've had this idea to do. I mean, the peg basically do an analog peg, where the cool thing for me always about the peg was always that you could set a time clock and then you could mess around with your wave shape and it wouldn't mess up your timing, because like the
Mm-hmm.
classic analog oscillator, you turn it to expo and it goes like super fast, turn it to log and it's like crazy slow. It's almost like
Mm-hmm.
the wave shape is a speed knob. So just decoupling those two things where like speed and shape are separate, that's what I did with the peg, and that for me that was like the cool thing about it. And then but I always wanted to do that in analog, and I always had this idea. I mean, going back since I released the peg, of just like make an analog oscillator and then run it through a wave shaper, just like you would do with a VCO. So like
Mm-hmm.
like an analog VCO, like it has different wave shape outputs. Like they're all the same pitch, right? It doesn't change the timing
Right.
of it. So it's just the same concept, but do that in the LFO stage, and then and so yeah, so it's like finally we're like um, finally got around to like just like, okay, I'm gonna try this. So and then we have
Yeah.
an analog designer on board now, Zach, who did the PI, our percussion interface, a few years back
Oh.
too,
Mm-hmm.
and so having his help too to really do a lot of the layouts and a lot of the like kind of yeah schematic, all the different proto runs, and then I check it, and like so we came up with like I think a few of us in the shop we just got kind of brainstorming of like what we have all these things. It can be like wave shaping, it could be dual, it could be single, it could have like a VCA or not. Like we just like how do we want to fit it all together, and we just came up with like there's no solution that's going to make everybody happy because like we want all the features, but then that's huge, and then that's not maybe that precludes. So we just came up with small, medium, large, and then we were even going to do a fourth one where it was like a single shaped. So because we have a dual shape, but then we thought,
Mm-hmm.
just small, medium, large is maybe don't
Yeah.
overkill it. So,
Well,
so
I love that too
yeah,
because like it's also like a way like for people coming in, if someone was to come up to me and ask me like, hey, I want to get into modular, I would tell them about signal chain and what kind of modules they would need, and I'd probably start them out with like the small version of your envelope and VCAs and say like, look, if you end up liking this, you can graduate to the next one, and once you wrap your head around that, then you can go to the granddaddy of it all. um,
sure, yeah,
in fact, Alfred Daedalus, they texted me the other night and asked, "Hey, give me some LFO recommendations." I'm looking around at LFOs and I just kind of want to pick your brain. And yeah, there were a few that popped into my mind instantly, and the shape dual envelope VCA was one of them because I know their workflow. Not, I mean, I don't know their workflow, but I kind of get a sense of how they work within their system, and they keep it pretty small. Um, and I was just thinking like this would be perfect because because of that, you can change stuff, change the wave shape and everything. It just seems
Right,
super
right.
powerful, like an excellent control voltage source. But can you give me some like real world applications of why that the shaped dual envelope VCA is like just some real world applications of
Yeah,
how do you use it and use this really cool feature that you've built into
yeah.
it.
Well, like kick drums, the first thing that comes to mind is that like if you so okay, so like one way to make a kick drum sound or just like percussive like uncy thing or just oomph. Um, you take like one way is take an oscillator low that really set pitch really low, like subaudible even, and then
Mm-hmm.
throw CV into it every that a trigger fires an envelope that goes pew going
Mm-hmm.
down, and then that modulates the pitch of it, and that's how you hear the kick. So it's really like pew. So
Mm-hmm.
the shape of that, whether it stays high and then goes low really quickly, or like gradually linearly goes down, or whatever, that it's like super influences the sound of it, and you get more
Mm-hmm.
like cheesy 70s like synth drum sounds. If it's more
Mm-hmm.
linear, then you can
Kind
get
of
like a more
lasery.
hard, yeah, pew, yeah, pew, pew,
Yeah,
pew,
yeah.
pew. So or you get a real expo curve, and it can really make it more more of a modern or whatever retro like 808 or something, kind of
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what, or 909 I mean, but whatever. I'm not like a super kick drum fanatic, like, but just like making those different types of sounds, like being able to control that gives you like a lot more possibilities. So it doesn't just always sound like the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the cool thing with the shape is that you can control that without changing the like length of the kick drum. So it doesn't go from, pew to like,
Mm-hmm.
doo, you know,
Right,
um,
right, right.
if you have it doo, and then you change the shape, it can go boo, doo,
Mm-hmm.
so you can oscillate between those two, and then you can CV that, so you can accent some or like be like, um, you know, more or less, or slowly bring it up, bring it down. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, that's like one main thing. If you're modulating any kind of um, just any kind of parameter, like so that has built-in VCA. So often, like, you run an oscillator into the VCAs. The envelope is
Mm-hmm.
tied to the VCA. So like you fire triggers or it's cycling, and it's like making notes with that, right? So as you change the shape, it like opens or closes the kind of the notes off more or less, greater or letter. And one
Mm-hmm.
trick you can do with the shape is you can patch there's a dedicated linear output, so you can patch that into the VCA CV. So now the shape slider won't change your notes, right? You're just going to get, so there's like a
Oh, and then
linear
you can use
output
the
that's,
uh-huh.
yeah, exactly. Okay, yeah. Then you use the shaped output, that's variable wave shape, to modulate your, like. So I use an ensemble oscillator all the time. So like I go modulate the
Mm-hmm.
warp on that, which is like wave folding, like harmonics, like cascading out, and so I can change the shape of how that like wave folding sounds as my notes
Mm-hmm.
are being made, and I can do that separately from the notes. So still get the cutoff from the notes from the VCA, but I have like a separate control for that kind of
That
shape.
I love that. I love those like yeah, I was just talking about this with a friend and not even about modular, but like just how it's amazing how some of the like the best ideas are super simple, but like you just have to find the person who accesses them and that dedicated linear output is so cool. Um so okay, I imagine you can have the other output just be exponential or linear, um, but just having that
Yeah,
dedicated one is like because then you're just doubling up and you're getting basically two, it's like a twofer situation, and you're also keeping
yeah,
stuff in the same like timing and everything. Like I love that.
right.
Um, so, but so with this output, as you're changing the wave shape, you can like so you can change the wave shape as it's falling and
Yeah,
it doesn't lose its time. So I feel like that's got to be like a really fun thing to use on like a filter cutoff or FM or something like that.
yeah. Filters. So like in yeah, filters is great. And another like as another way to make kick drum is like pinging a filter kind of thing or sweeping the cutoff of that, which is resonant. It's similar to an oscillator, but yeah, just changing like how fast it falls or attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it can really,
Mm-hmm.
and you can self patch the shape so that you get a different wave shape for the rise than the fall. So you can have like a linear rise
Oh,
and then an expo fall because it has and each channel has an end of rise or end of fall output, which is either high when it's rising or high when it's falling.
mm-hmm.
Each channel is different.
Nice.
But if you patch that into the wave shape CD, and then when that's high, it's going to modulate the shape to somewhere depending on how you turn up the attenuator. And then when
Uh-huh.
it's low, it's not going to modulate it at all. So you can set the wave shape to one position, like linear. So when that gate is off, it'll be linear, and then when that gate goes high, you can set it to some other thing using an attenuator.
Okay.
If that makes sense. I mean,
That,
there's a patch
yeah.
diagram in the manual, but yeah, I'm doing it in the air.
Yeah.
But yes, so basically you can get like you can do so. Yeah, you can be modulating the shape with its own timing information, causing it to
Okay.
get like a different thing rising or falling. And I mean, it's like it sounds crazy, but it's like it's one patch cable. It's just like,
Right.
and
Right.
then
Yeah.
suddenly you get
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'm so excited to try it out. I know Jono just sent me something, but I don't know exactly what's
Oh
in it.
yeah,
But I'm really excited to give all
mystery
this stuff a
box.
shot.
Yeah.
The mystery box, yeah, um, yeah. So I'm curious too. Like, you mentioned the percussion interface in the expander earlier, which I'm looking at right now, and I absolutely love that thing. I think it's such a cool little idea. Not little idea, but little module, big idea in a little
Yeah.
module. Um, so so when these ideas for modules come, like, who are they coming from, and is there a dedicated time, like, okay, the 16th we're all going to bring our notebooks in and we're going to talk about these ideas that we've come up with, or are they like they all come in from your, like, you start with the idea and then start pitching it around? Is it kind of like a writer's room or something?
Um, sometimes, usually like ideas. Okay, there's a whiteboard, and
Mm-hmm.
ideas go on there, and like it's even funny, like to see like we'll be like ideas for 2019 cross off, 2020 cross off, 2021 cross off, 2022 check mark. We got them out.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
so yeah, things go. Yeah, so the PI and gosh, and every one has a different, like every module is like different story, but like so. There's yeah, so like most of the ideas are mine,
Mhm.
and I mean, just like that was kind of the reason I started the company. Um so I fill up the whiteboard a lot with like things and like weird sketches that we're never going to make and stuff, but then some of them are like some of them actually become things. And then yes, but in terms of the PI, like that was Zach actually is a drum performer. He
Mhm.
drums, and this was like a thing he was wanting to use in his performance. So, and I think he was like making it with other, kind of hacking it together with other things, but like making it just like all in one, like calibrated and super like clean and tight was like what he wanted. And I was like, yeah, let's not make that a DIY project. Let's just like make that a module. Like that's useful, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was even thinking because like so I did a thing along. I don't remember, like 10 years ago or something, in Philadelphia with this other artist. It was his thing, but he contracted me to do this, set up all the electronics for like there was a drummer, and it was and we had three mics, kick snare and hi hat, and then we had this huge room. It was like I think 60 by 60 or something with like 30-foot ceilings. I don't know. We had to get a scissor jack to get up there, and we
Oh,
strung
wow.
lights, fluorescent tubes down like every like maybe 8 feet or so, like in a
Uh-huh.
triangular grid. So like the whole room's like fluorescent light tubes, like chains of them stringing down to the ground, and they're powered from above. And they're hanging, and there's like a little like weight at the bottom, so they don't. Or no, I think we like taped it down, anyways. But like they're just it's delicate, right? Like you would not bring a
Mhm.
4-year-old in there, like
Right.
it's and then and you can and people like laid on the floor and like what and like so the drummer. So I had a whole like setup, and I wish I had the PI because I was taking percussive sounds and like filtering them, and then like setting thresholds and then setting like one shot like gates so that it doesn't multi-trigger, trigger multiple times every time they hit, and then and
Mm-hmm.
so like one drum doesn't trigger the other. It was complicated and it required a lot of manual tweaking. But basically,
Mm-hmm.
like as the drummer played, like different lights would turn on depending on which drum they hit and how hard they hit it, and different would like make explosions like hi hat, kick, and snare down the
Yeah.
bottom. So it's cool. But I wish I had the PI because I was basically made that with like an entire 104 HP row of Eurorack
Wow.
with some custom firmware that I like put on the QPLFO and stuff just to like get it dialed in, and no one could operate it but me because like there's so many like little attenuators to set and everything.
Right. Right. Was
So
setting the
yeah,
thresholds so like there wasn't bleed from each, like so you didn't have the kick actually triggering the snares CV?
it
Like,
was
was that
insane.
that?
Yeah,
Yeah, it seems like that would be a
it was
nightmare.
hard.
Like,
It was hard. Yeah, it was a lot. I mean, it was like mic placement, and then you like sound check. But
yeah,
then, like when you're really playing, like you play a little harder or softer, or it changes and drums move and stuff. They like grab the mic because the cymbals, they hit it, the mic stand accidentally and stuff like that. So it's like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
it's kind of, but it doesn't have to be. It like starts out perfect, but it doesn't have to be because like really like the lights are still responding to the drums in the end.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it was
Nice.
basically like those clamp on triggers would have been a lot better, but the artist wanted to do the mic thing, so um, it was awesome, and they're still doing this performance without me because I was like I can't do this anymore once I had a kid. But I
Do
just
they
saw
have
they're still
the
doing it.
104 setup still, or did they switch
No,
out
like
to?
I said, nobody can operate that. It's not. It was. I did not make it user friendly. It was going to be a one time thing, and then it ended up being like a 2 or 3 time thing, and then but they're still. I don't know what they're. I'm curious what they're using, but I just
Yeah,
saw on their Instagram they're like still doing it. So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a couple options out there. I mean, if you want to start getting into the MIDI realm, but I feel like the PI has to be like one of the most versatile as far as just for like working with audio and affordable and size wise. It's just it comes with the expander. So it's 8 HP total with the two, and you get a quarter
hmm
inch jack. And then I love that the expander has the you can pass the audio in and out with the 3.5, and then like the negative, and you can the negative
yeah, 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 yeah. It's a
waveforms
super
and
good
stuff.
utility. Yeah,
It's so great.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Envelope
honestly, like
power. Yeah.
I use it like without an actual external noisemaker. Just pop in your kick drum or whatever sound you want to for
hmm
audio, or a bit like the STS or the Morphogene to for auto envelope following and stuff. It's just like, yeah,
Totally.
it's like super super useful. um
Totally.
yeah, so what are, I know like some of these are out and some of them are coming out in December. So the Shape Dual envelope is coming out in a few weeks. Yeah, like,
Yeah, yeah. All three envelopes are coming up. They're all like right there in
okay.
boxes, and then the shape. Yeah, it's a matter of like logistics. Right now, it's just like dealer. Have to orders and then
Yeah,
shipping, packing. It's just like we're in that stage. But they're here. They're working. They're ready to. Oh, the manuals haven't arrived yet. Whatever, but they'll be here in a couple of days.
okay.
So yeah, so like we have
Yeah,
to like box them up. But yeah,
right.
it's soon. Yeah, yeah.
I've sung the praises of the 4MS manuals quite a few times over
Good.
the period of the last few years. I have to say, like, you guys do a great job with your manuals, with your patch examples and your illustrations and everything. It's just, I mean, I know maybe it's just because I'm an aging millennial, but I don't like to go online for I don't want to look at my phone for my user manual. Like, I actually want the
Yeah,
paper thing. So I've got like a box full of manuals, and most of them are 4MS
yeah,
because a lot of modules don't come with manuals at all.
yeah.
So it's
Totally.
super
I'm
useful.
with you there. I love it. I wish more people did. It's sometimes like the kind of the compromise is that like they're tiny, so like the font's really small,
Hmm.
But it's sort of we're like, well, how many people actually read the manual? Not that many, we think, based on the emails we get. So good. No, but just kidding. Sorry.
No, I
We
know,
love
I
everyone.
know what you're. Yeah, yeah,
But I mean, like, you don't read the manual until it breaks, unless you're like a manual reader person, and then you like look at
right.
this manual and it's 48 pages, and you're like, 48 pages. I don't even know if I'm using it
Yeah,
right, like. So I get it. We all have lots of equipment, and like you can't just read the 20 pages on each one. So
yeah,
but I like having the manual, and I like documenting, and it does help, like when someone emails and they're like, I'm not a manual reading kind of person, but like, am I doing this right? And then you can just say, totally, look at page 16. There's and so it's like there
right.
already.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
and then and the patch examples, I think like everything should have patch examples, or unless it's just like
Totally.
basic utility. It's
Especially
like,
if it's like if it's like a complicated module or has like some really unique features that maybe don't present themselves super obviously, especially to somebody who's not like a well-seasoned synthesist, then like that could, just that one patch example can be a real good springboard for them to
yeah,
learn a whole lot, because with everything with modular, well, like I think this is with learning anything technical, but like learning this one thing, oftentimes you have a bunch of these loose concepts in your head, kind of like they get stuck in the gravitational force of this new thing that you just learned, and it becomes this new constellation of things like, oh, all this stuff's connected now, and those are those really nice aha moments, and it could all just be from a really
yeah,
simple patch example, which I think is really cool.
yeah.
I was listening to Mylar Melodies interviewing James Blake actually just yesterday, I think, and talking about making your own music, and they were talking about how like it actually made me feel better and less like a narcissist, because they were talking about enjoying your own music.
Oh
And
yeah,
James Blake said something to me that was really cool, and it was actually, yeah, this is exactly why I listen to my own music while I'm making it. I don't like bump my old records or anything, but you're making it because you're trying to create something that you wish existed within the world. So you're listening to
yeah,
all this music that's inspirational to you, but you're like, I wish there was something that was more like this. So you end up creating it. And I'm curious if there's any aspect to that with your designs. Like, are you patching with other people's modules, and then thinking like, oh, what if I had like these two functionalities combined, but then tweaked it here? Or like, this is my
yeah.
long-winded way of asking you, where do your ideas come from?
Yeah, from the whiteboard, man. That's where ideas
Yeah,
come from the whiteboard.
yeah.
Yeah, oh no, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's things that don't exist. Like I was saying with the
Hmm.
peg, it was like I want to be able to turn this knob to change the shape, but I don't want it to speed up and slow down so much. So like, how am I going to do that? So,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
yeah, the base, and then even the mini peg, yeah, is like, because we do pods now, so like there's not always 20 HP in these little tiny cases, and then I'm like, oh, should I take everything and move it? Like, oh, I just need one channel, just do a mini one. So stuff like
Hmm.
that. Yeah, most of the things, uh, it's basically, yeah, it hasn't existed, and we want it. And then sometimes but then sometimes it's like, and then let's riff on that, you know,
Yeah,
like the
yeah, yeah.
envelopes, and then well, let's make a small one. Okay, like so there is like the small one. It like there are simple envelope modules and VCAs, and so I'm not claiming like it didn't exist an 8 HP envelope. Yeah, okay, but it's a riff of the bigger one
Right,
that we
yeah.
were doing. So
Totally. And
yeah,
and I really like
you know,
that, as one of the big names of the scene, and one of the most longstanding companies, like, that you're still keeping like people who are new in mind with your designs. And I think that's
yeah,
like,
totally. I mean,
that's like a really, like, I don't know if kind is the word I'm looking for, but like, it's just like, it shows that you're not just, like, people progress and then they kind of like forget, I even forget about like what it's like to be new at Modular. So when people are asking me questions, I have to like stop myself and be like, oh, right, they don't know, like they've never done this before. So of course they don't know. I'm like, well, you got to ping your LPG. And they're like, wait, what the fuck are you talking about?
What? Yeah.
Yeah. So
Talking
I'm just really happy to see that you're still like creating these things that are accessible to people who are coming in. And I really like you said earlier, this progression from the small one to the big one. Just, I feel like that's a great like learning system or something like that. But
I think, I mean, I haven't even thought about it like that, that we're like intentionally trying to be friends, but that always is a thing. Like we're always, it's like, what would someone think if they just saw this? Like at, they're in our store, they're buying some, whatever, they're looking at music equipment and they're just like, what's that? Like it should, like, what is someone going to think? Like not reading the 48-page manual, not even maybe knowing synthesis that much, but you got to know a little bit to get into Eurorack. So we presume that, but yeah, just like if you're new to this, like what does this thing tell you that you can do with it? If there's a button, people are going to want to push the button. There's a knob that says pitch or frequency, like the big knob in the middle, like you're going to want to turn that. It's like they should do cool things and start teaching you what it can do as soon as you start doing like the obvious things. Output. Okay, I'll plug into output. Like that makes sense. So listen to that.
Totally.
So but that is in the design kind of. I think that's embedded in the way we think about things. Not so much that like we're targeting new people, but just like everybody's going to be new to it when it comes out. So like how's it going to, and like the weirder it is, or like the more like different it is than what already exists, like the more people are going to feel like this is a new thing. And like, how is it going to present? Like, what is it going to look like to someone who's like, I've never seen this. What the heck? And it should lend a helping hand to you and be like, here, this, turn this knob, like try this, like, oh, you've heard this other thing, like, well, it's here, but it has a little different name. So what does that do? Well, try it, So
right.
Try to like, ease people into it, but then, still have more to explore as you get more into it.
Totally. Yeah. Well, we have about 10 minutes left in the regular allotted time for the episode. And I always like to give the guest a chance. Is there anything that you wanted to scream from the Modular mountaintops, like before we started talking?
Keep making music, I guess. Like, I mean, that's I know it's been hard for artists, performing artists, like, but it's awesome to starting to see shows more and more, and like keep making music, people, because otherwise, what the heck are we all doing here? So
totally agree.
I don't know what else to say. That's as philosophical as I can get.
Yeah. Are there any new modules or manufacturers that are making stuff that you're like pretty excited about and think's pretty cool? I'm kind of curious. I like to ask other makers like what are they into? All right, if you want to hear Dan's answer to that question and a few fun philosophical questions, then head over to patreon.com/Podular Modcast and sign up, and you can get the bonus portion of the episode. Also, a bunch of other bonus material and just some fun stuff over there. I would really appreciate it. What else? Thank you to Recovery Effects. Go check out the Mystic. This thing's really cool. We're going to actually talk to Greg from Recovery Effects pretty soon here and get the lowdown on that. I want to say thank you to Novation. I can't wait for my Summit to show up. I'm going to go play it in front of some mountains, hopefully. I got to figure out my battery situation for that, but it's going to happen. Thank you to Weston Precision Audio and Forward Brain. What else? I feel like there was something else I wanted to mention. Don't forget to send me some holiday music. I need holiday music for our holiday episode that's coming up. You can send your submission, WAV file, please, WAV files or AIFF files to podmodcast@gmail.com. Also, I'm still doing the remix competition where you could win a t-shirt or a vinyl or a cassette tape or some stickers, all sorts of fun stuff. There was a link to the track Doom Frog from my last album that I made with my friend Steven Jett out on Mystery Circles called Kitty Safari. So remix that track. Again, WAV file or AIFF, send that to modcast@gmail.com. Yeah, thank you so much for listening. Thank you to After Later Audio and Patchworks for their continued support of Podular Modcast. And I think this week's secret word to put either on the Instagram post about the episode or in the YouTube comments is two secret words. Clear moon. Just something I saw on my wall. And if you can tell me what that's referencing to, because I saw it on my wall, then, I don't know, bonus cool points. Okay, until next week.